Okay, so the second page, let's definitely do number 9 here, and then we'll talk about some more difficult equations. Okay, so number 9, like we did before, if you're dividing or you have a fraction, you want to times both sides by the denominator. Okay, however, you need to times the 3x and the 1 by 2. So whenever that happens, I'm going to group up 3x plus 1 in this case, and then distribute the 2. Okay? So just don't forget to do that. These 2's will cancel, and then we're just left with the numerator. 10x plus 17 minus x minus 9 equals, and now if I distribute, I have 6x plus 2. Okay? So, again, another distribute here. Make that a -1 if you can't tell, but you're distributing that negative sign. So I'm doing my distribute before I start combining like terms, okay? Definitely do that in that order. Alright, so 10x plus 17, now this becomes minus x plus 9 equals 6x plus 2, okay? And now we're going to combine on one side of the equation, okay? Before we start moving stuff. So our x's go together and our numbers go together. Alright, before I start moving things around, combine, or you're going to make your problem have way more steps than it needs to. Okay, so 10x minus x is 9x. 17 plus 9 is 26. Equals 6x plus 2. Okay, now we can move our variables to one side. Alright, so like I said, if you look at your x's, I always move them to the bigger side, whether it's the left or the right, so we don't get a negative. 9 is bigger than 6, so I'm going to move my x's to that side. Alright, so 3x plus 26 equals 2, and then minus 26, 3x equals negative 24, alright, and then dividing, x gives you negative 8, or x is negative 8, okay. Alright, so don't forget this here, it's very important when we go down to proportions, okay. Special cases, we're probably going to do both of those. This is when you get either a true or a false statement. And if you get a true statement, there are infinitely many values that will work. So you just say infinitely many. But if you get a false statement, that means no values will work. So that's when we say no solution. Okay? True, infinitely many, false, no solution. So those, basically if you ever see something like on your homework that says special cases, that's what it means. Alright, so let's keep that in mind when we do 11 and 12. Okay, so 11 I'm going to distribute first. Alright, so that gives me 5 minus 5c plus 8c on the right. The left, nothing changes, so I'm just going to rewrite it. Okay, and then we have stuff to combine, so let's do that first. 3c. So now we're at 1 plus 3c equals 5 plus 3c. Okay, and either way you look at it, if you subtract 3c from both sides, okay, and those cancel, you get 1 equals 5. So this is a false statement, therefore your answer is no solution. The answer is not false, okay? That's just what you say when you get a false statement. The answer is no solution. So don't just say false. Don't just leave it at 1 equals 5, okay? That's not an answer. No solution is the answer. Alright, and let's look at 12. This one shouldn't take too long, so let's distribute. On the right side, negative 8x plus 40 equals 40 minus 8x, okay? And you need to get rid of the x's, so your final answer, or before you say your final answer, should have numbers. There shouldn't be variables anymore. And if they cancel out, that's how you know it's a special case. So 40 equals 40. That is a true statement, so there are infinitely many answers here. So that's why we say infinitely many. Okay? Alright, cool. So proportions. Number 13, you can try on your own if you want. Let's do 14 together to refresh your memory. And we're going to talk about kind of what we did at the top of this page. I'm going to group up those denominators, okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be on the bottom, but anytime you see two terms or more in a proportion, you want to group it up. So if you were doing 13, you will want to group that up first. Okay, and then we use cross multiplication to solve these. Cross multiply. So we're going to take 10 times the 2x minus 8, and we'll take the 8 times 5x minus 9, and since we group those binomials up, we know to distribute, okay? So 10 times 2x minus 8 equals 8 times 5x minus 9, okay? So grouping them up also helps you remember to distribute. In this case, distribute on both sides. Okay, so let's do all that together. We have 20x minus 80 equals 40x minus 72. Okay, and like I said, pick the bigger side to move your x's. That's 40. That's bigger than 20. Okay, you absolutely do not have to do it that way. It just ensures you're always going to get a positive, and then you don't have to worry about dividing by a negative, which is especially nice when you deal with inequalities, which we will get to. Okay, so now we're here. I'm going to add 72, and that gives me negative 8 equals 20x divided by 20. Oops. Alright, and simplify that. Fraction, 4 goes into both. Alright, you do not have to simplify by hand. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. You can use your calculator if you need to. Okay, but that will give me negative 2 over 5 for x. Okay? Alright, and then you may want to write in your proportions that you cross multiply. That's how we solved. Okay, so literal equations. Let's do 15, 17, and 20. Okay, and that'll be it. So c equals 2 pi r. You're going to solve it for pi, okay? A literal equation means you solve for a variable. So if you notice all of these, you're solving for a variable, and you're not going to get x equals 5 at the end. You're going to get x equals some kind of variables, or in this case, pi equals some kind of variables. That's what a literal equation is, okay? So for 15, we're solving for pi. Alright, the first thing I would do if you're like a visual person is color your variable, okay? Oops. Alright, well, or circle it. Let's just circle it, okay? That is what I want to solve for, pi. So, c equals 2 pi, that's what I care about. Keeping on one side, alright, so what do I have to do to get pi by itself? I've got to get rid of the 2 and the r, right? I didn't give you a hint there, but I got to get rid of the 2 and the r. Those are all multiplication between the 2, the pi, and the r. So to get rid of the times, we have to divide them, okay? And whatever you do on one side of an equation, you have to do on the other. Oops. Alright, so on the right side, we're left with pi. And on the left, we have c over 2r. So just leave your literal equation the way it is, okay? That's the answer. That's solve for pi. All right. Now let's do 17 because we have a fraction here. Okay, we're going to solve for b. So I'm going to circle b. Actually, I can probably highlight here. There we go. So b is what I want to solve for. That means I got to get rid of the c and got to get rid of the a. All right, think about your order of operations. We said a numerator is like a group. So if we're doing order of operations backwards, we don't want to get rid of that a plus b until everything else is gone. So we're going to get rid of the c and times by c on both sides, because that's the opposite. So a plus b equals 5c. And to solve for b, we got to get rid of the a, so let's subtract a. And b equals 5c minus a. Okay? We took 5c and then subtracted a. And that's it. That's what I mean by a literal equation. You're not just going to get 5. You'll get some variables in your answer. Okay, and then last one I want you guys to do with me is 20. You can do more for practice if you want. But we're going to solve this for n, and I definitely want to go over this, okay? So what you don't want to do is distribute the 180, because you're going to go backwards. You're going to make yourself have way more steps, and on like a multiple choice, it would never do that first, okay? The first thing, think about these as parentheses. You don't want to break them up till the end. So you want to divide by 180 because that was multiplied. Okay, so I want 180 to cancel on both sides. The biggest mistake I see from Algebra 1 and 2 is trying to distribute first. Don't do that. Okay? And we're solving for n, so all we have to do is plus 2 to both sides, okay? Don't make this too difficult. Write what you had, s over 180, and then just write plus 2. Okay, you don't have to find a common denominator or add with a fraction or anything. Just leave it